Meantime, in Vancouver, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh promised to fight for an expansion of pharmacare if he's elected to the next parliament.
Our commitment is New Democrats will fight to bring in the next step, which is to cover all essential medication. These are the medications that are most often prescribed. This is going to give a lot of relief to people that are worried about being able to afford their medication. It's going to save money for families. It's also going to improve our healthcare system.
Singh also saying a minority government would be the best result for Canadians. In recent days, Singh has shifted away from talking about campaigning to be Prime Minister and has instead framed his policy announcements as arguments for electing more New Democrats, a trend that continued today. For more on this, I'm joined by NDP strategist Mélanie Richer. She's a principal with public affairs firm Earnscliffe Strategies. Melanie, when the year began, the polls projected the NDP to have about 19% support, and today it sits around 8%. Why do you think they've lost so many supporters?
Right. I don't think it's anything that the NDP has done wrong. I really think we're just in a different world than we were, a few months ago. And the world looks different, particularly as it relates to Donald Trump. I was thinking the other day that Jagmeet has actually been running a pretty good campaign, a positive campaign, at the center of which is people and particularly working people. So if we were just taking a look at that, it should still be good support. I think what we're looking at is, of course, we've got Donald Trump south of the border, but we also have a Liberal leader who has experience on the world stage and also a Liberal leader that folks don't know yet. And when folks don't know someone, it means that they can make that person whoever they'd like them to be. So I think there's a bit of projection on Mark Carney of exactly who folks are hoping that he could be as Liberal leader, but also who folks are hoping that he could be as Prime Minister.
Are there things that Jagmeet Singh could be doing to push back on that, to gain back some of the support?
Yeah, I think we're actually starting to see that in what you were just talking about, in that strategic voter message or in that minority government message. We know that folks like having NDP MPs in Ottawa, and what we also know is they like what the NDP's gone to get through the supply and confidence agreement. And what I mean here is, of course, dental care, birth control, diabetes medication, and protections for workers. So folks like those things. So by talking about those things and by making the choices really clear, not to attack necessarily Mark Carney for, whatever he's done, but by making the choices clear. If Mark Carney is somebody who in his career has really stood with big corporations, has really worried about taking care of our economy, but hasn't necessarily stood with working people and fought for working people. So by making the choices clear there and telling people that, by sending NDP MPs to Ottawa, you're keeping this Liberal government, if they were to be elected, accountable, I think is actually quite smart for both segments of the NDP's voter base, which is, those orange-blue voters who switch between the NDP and the Conservative, and those orange-red voters that switch between the NDP and the Liberals.
Polling shows that Singh himself is in danger of losing his seat. Do you think he's going to be able to hold on?
I do. Obviously, numbers like that are worries that are concerning and are numbers that the party is taking super seriously. But what is good about the NDP is they know where their support is and they know how to mobilize that support to go out and vote. So the national polling, it's hard to see how that applies regionally. We just saw it here in Ontario, was it a month ago, 2 months ago now in the provincial election, that it's hard to take those models that are province-wide or nationally wide and apply them to the region. What I'm hearing from folks in Jagmeet's riding is they're getting good marks, they're getting good people who are leaning in and are saying they've liked what Jagmeet's gone to go get them. So I think he'll be good. Of course, nobody's taking anything for granted, and they're going to work really hard and make sure that appropriate resources are there to get that vote out on election day. But I think he holds on to a seat.
If he doesn't, let's say he doesn't, could this be the end of his time as leader of the party?
I have full confidence in Jagmeet that he will make that decision when it's best for the party. I think folks, at least the folks that I speak to, both, NDP partisans and folks that like the NDP and don't consider themselves partisan, are really proud of the way that Jagmeet has handled himself as leader and the things that he's really gotten for Canadians, for people, and standing by his principles. I think folks really appreciate. So I don't think that there are any big calls right now for him to step down. Obviously, depending on what happens with the election, that could be different. But I have full confidence that he'll make the right decision for the party when the time comes. I'm a big fan of Jagmeet, so I hope he sticks around for a little bit. But yeah, we'll see.
That's NDP strategist Mélanie Richer. Mélanie, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.